Welcome to the Big Play Cleveland Show. I'm Gabriella Cruz alongside Chris McNeil. And in studio today, we've got Ryan Smith, one of our producers for the Crib Show. And, give everyone a quick resume.
Oh, gosh. If you watch Big Play, if you've ever watched it, I'm sure you've seen my face, my beautiful mug everywhere with Bruce, with the Cribs. Big Play Tailgate, I've been filling in there. Obviously, I'm behind the desk on this show, but Nick's in a much better place in Ohio right now. So I'm filling in, and I'm happy to be here with you guys today.
Yeah, cool. And a quick shout out to Pat, who is filling in on producer, and Jack, Big Play Jack, is in studio for some support today, cutting up all the socials for us.
Is our support Jack over there?
We've got an elite team with us today.
Got our own support Jack.
A full studio and a little bit toasty studio, if I don't mind. You're going to be sweating by the end of this segment.
I just live here, basically, like in the studio, so I'm kind of used to it.
This
I've
is your
become
climate.
accustomed. My blood is boiled to the correct temperature to match this environment.
Sure.
So I'm actually very comfortable right now.
Perfect. We'll talk
It's
about
like 20 degrees outside, and in here it's at least 95. I'll bet it's warmer in here than wherever Nick's at right now on the West Coast.
Yeah, and honestly, it was so nice to come into a warm room. It was just that I wore a sweater for the Hanford Dixon show, so it was hard muscling through that. We'll get through some of our sports top headlines, and we'll get to our featured interview. Timmy Hall is coming on later.
Talk some Buckeyes.
Yes.
How about that? Natty coming up, national championship. Everybody's excited about it. Got the Buckeyes, got Notre Dame. We're going to have Tim Hall from 97.1 on to talk a little bit about that, break it down, so we'll be all set for that game Monday night.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit of Cavs. And, the Cleveland Sports Awards are coming up, the annual event where we're celebrating local athletes, local teams, really some inspiring stories every year. It sounds like friend of show, Katie Moon, two-time Olympian in the pole vault, will be, she's nominated for Athlete of the Year. And, so it'll be a good time, and Big Play is looking to be there. So we have plenty to chat about on our show. Let's get into a little bit of Cleveland headlines brought to you by Fairway Ford.
Cleveland headlines are brought to you by Fairway Ford. Fairway Ford is the biggest truck dealership in Ohio. They have the largest selection of Ford F-150s and Super Duty trucks, and they won't be beat on price by any other Ford dealers. Don't let a short drive to Canfield prevent you from saving literally thousands on your new truck. Fairway Ford, the largest inventory of Ford trucks, the lowest pricing, and the same hometown level of service. Visit fairwayfordohio.com. fairwayfordohio.com.
All right, you can save thousands with Fairway Ford. Can the Browns save millions potentially by way of insurance?
There's a segue.
You can't make this up. Deshaun Watson re-injuring his Achilles, guys.
Yeah, honestly, are we that shocked? I don't think so.
No.
Listen, you see Deshaun Watson, whether it was he was doing his TikTok dance, he injured it, whether he slipped on his billion-dollar yacht, who knows? But yes, the good part is if you can't play for the 2025 season, which it seems like that's going to be the case, they can cash in on that insurance policy. Now, the next layer to the story is what was he doing that caused him to re-injure this? Because if this wasn't something that the Browns, what's the word I'm looking for, that they were administering, right? If it wasn't a Browns practice or something they gave the green light to, then you're looking in some of those possible guarantees being voided, and boy, would that be a great present for the Cleveland Browns.
It looks like they're trying to use social media as their grounds for potential evidence. He was bootless, it looks like, doing a little bit of dancing.
Allegedly, he's supposed to be in the boot for the first 3 months, and he wasn't in the boot from everything that we've seen on social media, and may have hurt himself. From what I saw, and I saw one particular doctor said that it's virtually impossible to do this type of injury and re-injure it that way if you're in a boot. Yeah, and it's very, very difficult, even if you're out of a boot, to do it. So it's interesting to me to see how the heck did he even do this. The Browns let him kind of direct his own recovery down there in Miami and do whatever he wanted to. They found this out because of postseason physical, which is kind of surprising to me. You make an investment like this in a guy like Deshaun Watson, and then you kind of leave it up to him to come back. That was surprising to me through this whole thing. But, it's one of those things with the Cleveland Browns. Does anything really surprise you anymore? Hopefully this mistake ends up helping us out, though, in the long run.
Yeah, do you think there's any conspiracy theories with this one?
Well, I think the ultimate theory that I've got on this is that Deshaun Watson really doesn't want to play football anymore. And I think the Browns obviously want to get out of this deal. So whatever they can do, whatever kind of a settlement we can come to where Deshaun Watson isn't playing in Cleveland, Deshaun Watson's able to do all the traveling he wants to, and that's fine, and enjoy his life away from football, and the Browns are able to get out from under this. That's what they're trying to figure out. And I really believe that both sides are trying to do that. I know there's been some stories leaked out there that say Deshaun Watson and really wants to come back. I don't buy any of that. I think he's kind of done. He's mentally done with the game, and now it may be a physical thing as well.
Yeah, I mean, death taxes Deshaun Watson doing something he's not supposed to. I mean, color me shocked. It doesn't shock at all, but now you just hope this will be the final chapter. You're able to close the book on this whole Deshaun Watson experience and move forward, because that's really the only way that you're ever going to be in a competitive football team again, is just wiping away this giant stink that all got caused by Deshaun Watson.
Okay, lighter news. He's miles above TJ Watt. Myles Garrett named first-team All-Pro for the 4th time in his career. Does he have a real chance to win his 2nd Defensive Player of the Year award, 2nd consecutive?
I think it's going to be an uphill battle because you've got a 3-win team, and I don't think that the league is going to look to put this prestigious award and give it to somebody who's on a 3-win team with the Cleveland Browns. Once again, Myles Garrett showed up this year. You know, it's interesting in his postseason comments here, some of the things he said about the direction of the organization. I think this is going to be a real key offseason for Myles Garrett and for the Browns, because he definitely planted the flag that they have to come with a vision in this offseason, an offseason where that's not real clear what the answers are, whether you're talking at quarterback or how we're going to move forward with Deshaun Watson. There's just a lot of questions out there, and Myles has put it to the organization. But back to the original question, I don't think he's going to get it, although, once again, I think he's very deserving of an award like this.
Yeah, he's not going to win it, but should he be considered? Of course he is. Of course he should be. I mean, he's still one of the best defensive players in football. I mean, I can make the argument all day long that he is still the best defensive player in football. But at the end of the day, you said it, Chris, a 3-win football team. You factor in probably voter fatigue. He won it last year. The odds are he's not going to get it. The numbers tell you he really should probably get it again. I mean, I understand Trey Hendrickson had the 17.5 sacks, whatever it was, and Pat Surtain has had a hell of a year. But again, Myles Garrett remains the most game plan player against in the NFL. He's a human wrecking ball, and every single team, I mean, you look, double covered or double blocks, whatever you want to call it, every single time, right?
Double
and now's your
teamed
chance
all over
to
the place,
finally
yeah.
get a premier pass rusher in this draft in Abdul Carter, if that's the route they go down, and make Myles' life a whole lot easier. And when you talk about giving him a vision for the future, I mean, you add another young stud that could potentially turn into a Myles Garrett, I think he'd be pretty content with that.
Yeah, to give him his statistical flowers, as you're pointing out, Ryan, led the NFL in tackles for loss, 2nd in sacks, faced a league-high rate of double teams and chip blocks. I mean, hey, Myles, we love you. We know you're deserving. Guys, the Cavs' 12-game win streak comes to an end after that loss to Indiana.
Yeah, and this is really a case where this team has been on an altitude or on a flight path of going straight up, and now they've kind of reached that cruising altitude, right? And now you start seeing NBA games like normal January NBA games. You know, we still had a chance in that game. It's disappointing to lose a game like that to the Pacers, but I have no long-term concerns based upon one game in January right now with the team. I think the team itself is going to be fine. I'd like to see, you know, guys like Donovan Mitchell, who is a little bit rocky here, you know, missed a game. Obviously, they sat him, and it's nice that you're able to get a little bit of rest for some of these guys. But he hasn't been as consistent here. So there's little pieces like that you start to see kind of crop up in games like this. But ultimately, I think this team's going to be okay. This is just a long season, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, it's a loss in January. It is what it is. I mean, for what the Cavs have been able to do this season, and it's not like the Pacers are some pushover team. They still have superstars, Halliburton and Siakam. And listen, your bench didn't play well, and that was the formula why the Cavs have gotten to this point, is everybody's contributing. You mentioned Donovan Mitchell's had a little bit of rough patch here for Donovan Mitchell's standards, obviously, but I don't expect this to be a pattern or a trend. The good news is you get another chance to beat them again on Tuesday, redeem yourselves, and at the end of the day, you still have, what, 4 or 5 losses on the season? I'm not going to be too worried about one loss to an Indiana team in January.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. Ohio State-Texas game. Ohio State 28-14. Your initial takeaways on this game, and maybe Texas kind of sabotaging themselves.
It was so fun. Once again, Jack Sawyer, Captain Jack, making that play. I mean, right after that, you saw all the videos coming out with music overlays. You had the Creed overlay. You've got the Titanic overlays. It's one of those iconic plays. We saw it back, you know, in the Guardians' magical run with Big Christmas, where everybody was sending out all of those videos. It's nice to see it once again. You've got all that positive momentum, and I really do believe, like we have all season, going back to the beginning of this season, I think the Ohio State Buckeyes are the most talented team in the country. We said it at the beginning of the season. We said it throughout the season. We had that stunner with Michigan, and now we're starting to see it in the playoffs once again. I think they outclass everybody, and I look for them to do that again in the national championship. That was a fun game, really capped off by Jack Sawyer.
Yeah, did you guys know that Jack Sawyer and Quinn Ewers were actually roommates? I mean, I heard that about 1,000 times.
Right.
So if nobody knew that, yes, that was the case. And it was a cool moment.
It was like A.J. Hawk and Brady Quinn's sister for this particular game, right?
And it was cool to see Jack Sawyer ultimately get that final play that ended the game. And it was cool to see the back and forth between him and Quinn Ewers. But yeah, I mean, Ohio State is clearly the best team in the country right now. I don't think there's any debate about that. And if anything, it was probably good for the Buckeyes that you didn't get another blowout win. I mean, it's good to go in with a little chip on your shoulder and know that, yeah, you are the better team, but you still got to play like it for 4 quarters. Notre Dame isn't going to lay over. Marcus Freeman has something to prove, obviously, Ohio State alum. It'll be a great game. Ohio State should win. And you mentioned, you go back to the preseason, the expectations. Ryan Day, Will Howard, they all said it. This is a championship season, win or bust. And that's exactly what it still is. I understand it's nice to get to the big dance, but Ryan Day's been to the big dance before, and he got blown out by Alabama. And he's still got something to prove. Obviously, the chatter has calmed down a little bit, but if he goes in here and loses to Marcus Freeman, a 39-year-old in just his 3rd season, I mean, that chatter is going to get ramped back up right away.
Oh, yeah. And we've got more passionate Buckeyes talk ahead. We're bringing in Timmy Hall. We're going to take a short break after this. Thanks again to our friends at Fairway Ford. Head down to their dealership or visit them at fairwayfordohio.com. You'll be glad you did. We'll be back after this short break. Welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland Show. It is time for our Garage Beer featured interview. Garage Beer has got you covered all football season long. It's perfect for tailgates, watch parties, or even just watching alone in your garage. It's beer-flavored beer, Garage Beer. And now we are delighted to welcome on friend of show and our special guest for today, featured by Garage Beer. He is the host of the Buckeye Show on 97.1 The Fan in Columbus. Timmy Hall, thanks so much for joining us. Love the hoodie, man. The Ohio State Buckeyes are heading to the national championship. Are these the 2 best teams in college football?
No, I don't think so. I think Ohio State is one of the 2. I know. I'm going to come right out of the gates and sound like that guy. Yes, I know. One of those Ohio State guys. And thank you for the compliment on the hoodie. I thought I'd be a good little boy and wear the station brand. I'm actually a walking Commanders fan today, but I took my Commanders gear off and put the fan hoodie on to do this interview for the publicity. But I do think I said going into the Texas game that I thought Ohio State, once they found that recipe to beat Tennessee and Oregon by 20 plus, and the Oregon victory felt like more than 20 points, what the final score said. I thought they were going to ride double-digit victories onto the national championship. Now, they did that against Texas. Thank you to Jack Sawyer. It got way dicier than it needed to be because they shot themselves in the foot too many times. Felt a little bit like the Clemson game in 2019 that Ohio State lost. But I do think they're a better football team than Notre Dame. I respect Notre Dame's defense. I don't think that offense is going to be able to hang with what the Buckeye defense is doing right now, becoming a brick wall. But I'm excited for this game. It's a national championship game, so anything can happen.
Talk about Captain Jack, that strip, that scoop, that score. What that meant, obviously, for the game was that was the dagger, right? But what did it mean for Ohio State fandom there in Columbus? I mean, what was your phone like? Where were you at? When that happens, what happens in your world when you have a big play like what Captain Jack did?
Okay, so to paint the picture of what's going on here, so my routine for all Buckeye football games, if it's a road game and I don't have like any kind of assignment at a watch party, I typically watch the first half at home with my wife and my son. And now I'm going to just tell people that my son Jack is named after Jack Sawyer. I'm just going to switch it up. Like
retroactively.
Jack Nicholas. Now it'll just be Jack Sawyer. But I came in at halftime and I watched the rest of the game here, and I'm preparing for post game. So I switched up my routine for whatever reason. I usually watch the games with Brandon Beam, who I do the show with, and I listen to Paul and Jim, but the way we are on the radio, we can't sync up the audio. So we're hearing every play before it happens that way. And it threw me off for just this one time. I switched it up and I watched it at my desk with the TV sound on, and Adam King of 10 TV, they're in our building as well, the CBS affiliate in Columbus. And he is horrible at watching Buckeye football games. He wears it on his sleeve. He's like a baby watching the games. He's like a 5-year. He can't take it. Like it's like he's got 10 grand on the game or something, the way he's watching it. And so when that play happens, he's pacing up and down the hallway or going by my cubicle. And obviously that fourth down play gets ready to happen. And as the play progresses, it is maybe, I don't know if I've ever, with only 3 people that were back there, the amount of yelling and screaming when Jack is running down the sideline and he's eventually going to score. So that was crazy. And then as that happened, Dane Sanzenbacher, former Ohio State wide receiver, walked into the building, and Adam just jumps him and gives him a huge bear hug. Everybody's smiling and high-fiving and celebrating. It was honestly one of the craziest experiences that I've ever had watching a football game. And I think it's going to go down, if Ohio State wins this game, as one of the biggest plays, if not the biggest play in Ohio State football history, the magnitude of it and what it did.
Where would you rank it right now?
I mean, right now, I think it's already in the top 10, and for defensive plays, top 5. But I think like anything goes, if you talk about, the legacy of something, this team lost 2 games. They didn't even win a Big Ten championship. They didn't even go to the game. They lost again to Michigan. So I think what a lot of, the lunatic fringe has been wanting and clamoring for was to, okay, you're happy that it's a new format. You're happy it's a 12-team playoff. What are you going to do? Are you going to rally and reach your peak performance now and give the fans something, give yourselves something, earn something for yourselves, so all the seniors can actually walk away with some kind of big achievement and big accomplishment? That's what I think it was about. So if that happens, then it would be the top defensive play in history, and maybe a top 3 play in Buckeye football history. It was all you needed to do is get the stop, guys, right? It was 4th down. All you needed to do is get the stop, and then it would have been the offense's job. But to house it, I didn't know Jack Sawyer could return something 83 yards. Did you? No way.
Yeah, Timmy, flipping over to Jeremiah Smith, it's hard to complain anytime you're headed to the national championship game, but held to just one catch, 3 yards. People aren't used to that, but obviously Carnell Tate, Emeka Egbuka reaped the rewards of that. They had one of their best games of the season, especially in the playoffs. Not used to the Jeremiah Smith show, that is, but what did you see out of him? Was Texas just, I saw a lot of triple shading him. I mean, at 18 years old, it's crazy to think about. He commands that much respect from defenses, but you got to imagine Notre Dame's going to look to do the same thing.
I would think they are, and no, it's a good point. We thought that Jeremiah was getting to a point now where, look, he's seen multiple different coverages already to this point, but give Texas's DBs, give Barron a lot of credit, and I got to eat my words on something, because I was really talking some stuff about Colin Simmons and how laughable it was that someone else in college football could get a Freshman of the Year award, the Sean Alexander Award, over Jeremiah Smith. Now, I will also, to my defense, say one game doesn't change who a player is over the course of a season. But in that game, Colin Simmons was outstanding and outplayed and was more impactful than Smith, in the stats department. I do think the impact of Jeremiah Smith is crazy when it changes what an entire defense is going to do. And in the first half, when that Buckeye offense was humming along, they were just taking the shots to Carnell Tate and Emeka Egbuka all day. Those are possibly first-round talents. Egbuka is for sure, and Carnell Tate might also be a first-round talent. So for whatever reason, I think the penalties just threw off their rhythm, and they weren't able to keep taking those shots to Tate and Egbuka like they were on those first 2 drives. But what they did against Jeremiah Smith, obviously that's a feather in their cap. The cloud coverage you mentioned, the bracketing. Notre Dame's got a good secondary, and they got a good defense too. But I don't know. I doubt you're going to hold him down that much. I think this guy is going to get back in the lab, and I think he's going to run routes harder and work even that much harder to make sure that he gets open, and they're going to work some ways to get him the football this coming game. They have to.
All right, Tim, let's talk some opposition intel here. Who on Notre Dame are you keying on? Who are some guys you're kind of looking for that the Buckeyes have got to stop come the national championship here?
Well, I'm a fan of their entire defense. I think they've got studs. I think their front 7, their defensive line and their linebackers, that's going to be a challenge. That is, especially, but the thing is, Tennessee's defense, we were weary of that one. Oregon has now got dudes on defense. A lot of people just assume still that they're a speed team and all their threats are on offense, but their D line was really, really good. I mean, I think they proved that over the course of the year. Same goes for Texas, obviously, and Notre Dame. It's the strength of their team. I really do think when you look at Riley Leonard to play, a matchup offense defense for Notre Dame's offense to the Buckeye defense, it's going to be Ohio State's defensive line again, and then throw in Cody Simon and Sonny Styles and maybe even Arvell Reese in a game like this. Again, look for Ohio State's defense to maybe change a little bit of what it does in its normal base package because of how much Notre Dame is going to hit you with the QB run. It's not like Riley Leonard can't throw the ball, but I think if you're playing the odds, you're going to want to force Notre Dame into situations where Riley's not as comfortable, and he just does not have the completion percentage and the passing numbers that a guy like Will Howard has. So if they stack the box, if they're really, really sound on the read option game and shut that down, I think it could be a long night for Notre Dame's offense.
Yeah, Timmy, just looking at this matchup, it looks like this is Ohio State's for the taking this national championship title. But when you look at that Michigan game, is there any concern with Ryan Day tightening up on the big stage?
Yes, absolutely. yeah, Gabby. It is. I mean, you saw it. And again, I almost don't know if it was so much Ryan Day tightening up or Chip Kelly tightening up in this last game against Texas. It's not the same as what happened against Michigan because these are much better teams, right? You saw Texas early in the year go to Ann Arbor and beat the ever-living piss out of them. So they're a different team. These are better teams right now than 6-6 Michigan, even though Michigan knocked off Alabama in their bowl game, right? But who's keeping score of that? But I think the penalties almost want to put as much blame, maybe even more if we play the 50-50 game, like who are you blaming more when things go wrong? There were a lot of players that did not make heady plays. The Travion Henderson penalty is something that can't happen. And honestly, one of my first comments on postgame when the game was done is they need to make a big, big deal about that this week, because if you're trying to rally and win a national championship when you already didn't accomplish your first 2 goals of the season, winning a Big Ten title and beating Michigan, then you can't leave it up to chance. If you should be winning that game by 14 points or possibly, it felt like it could have been a 21-0 game the way that game started, and they took themselves out of it. And it's not like when you get those penalties on first down, you can kind of recover from them, but they made sure that it was second down. It's almost like how the Browns would do it, so they can make sure that they kill the drive, right? Like they had the drive-killing penalties, but I'm always watching, to see if Ryan Day is going to be super aggressive. I mean, he's gonna be hunting for Lou Holtz the second that it's over. If they win the national championship, he might plant a flag right through his poor chest. So we'll see what happens.
Timmy Hall, so entertaining. Thanks so much for your insight and all of your passion. Keep up the good work on the Buckeye Show, 97.1 The Fan in Columbus. Thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Tim.
We got to take a short break. We'll be back with more Big Play Cleveland right after this.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland Show. This week our fill in the blank is of course brought to you like it is every week by our great friends at Northeast Factory Direct. Northeast Factory Direct has the best quality products at an unbelievable price, and they have your whole house covered with kitchen cabinets, bedroom sets, dining room tables, hot tubs, sofas, and so much more. You can shop online anytime by going to northeastfactorydirect.com or visit any one of their stores in Cleveland, Euclid, Macedonia, or North Canton. And if you're looking for an even better deal, check out their outlet centers in Euclid or Canton. And I'll tell you again, make sure to ask about that big play bonus. You won't regret that you did. Once again, that's Northeast Factory Direct, northeastfactorydirect.com.
All right, let's kick off some fill in the blank, fellas. My official prediction for the Ohio State Notre Dame national title game is
pain for Notre Dame and for the Domers. I think 34-17 Buckeyes. I like the Buckeyes to roll in this game. I think they're going to cover the spread. I'm going to continue to roll with them with my betting dollar like I have this whole playoff run, and I think they continue that. Good luck and some more payouts for me.
Yeah, I think Ohio State will win this game. Do I want them to? I'd like to see the Fighting Irish get that win, but I think Ohio State is the more talented team. Not even a hater. I'm picking them to win, and they should win. I'll go 28-21 Ohio State. gets their national championship again. Ryan Day chatter calms down. He's back. I think Ohio State, if they can get Travion and Quinshon going again, it's going to be hard to limit Jeremiah. And we saw what happens if you do. Then Carnell Tatum, Eka Buka, etc. They're going to have good games. And I think it'll just be too much for Notre Dame to handle. But great season for Notre Dame. Obviously, Marcus Freeman signed an extension. They got their guy. But I think this is finally the year that Ryan Day gets it done.
All righty. Yeah, that's a nice little shout out to Jack O'Rourke in studio, too. Another passionate Fighting Irish fan. I'm low-key sorry, McNeil, but I'm also pulling for the Fighting Irish.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. We'll
How
get,
are we sitting up here in Northeast Ohio and we got two people
we'd get
pulling
eaten up
for
in the comments,
Notre
and we're
Dame.
gonna, but it's not, I don't know. I guess I'm not a hater. It's just that I really love Notre Dame. The Cavs rematch with Oklahoma City this week is...
It's going to be epic. It's going to be fun, especially for this time of the year. We were just talking about how, the Cavs had just lost that game to Indiana, and that felt like your normal January NBA game. This Thunder series, last week that was just fantastic cinema. It was a nationally televised game. The Cavs end up taking it. You know that Oklahoma City, they're going to be up for revenge. So this game this week, I'm going to be tuned into that one. And it says a lot when you're watching NBAs intently in January. That says a lot about what this matchup is. Best of the East, best of the West. I want to see if Donovan Mitchell is going to be able, we talked about it earlier, going to be able to knock some more of the rust off that he seems to be accumulating here in the early part or mid part of the season. And I think he could do it. Certainly, we've seen his superstardom here in Cleveland. And, these big games, you like to see your stars show up. So I'm looking for Donovan to kind of lead the charge for this game.
Yeah, it's another chance for the Cavs to prove they're the best team in the NBA and that it wasn't a fluke. You beat them here in Cleveland. Now it's going to be even tougher. You're going to have to go to Oklahoma City and beat them there. That's a tough arena to play in. The Oklahoma City are clearly the elite team in the West. We know the Cavs are here in the East, but you fell to Indiana, a game you probably should have won, but we know it's a long season. Now you get a chance to get up. Everybody will be tuning in. If you saw the ratings for the first match, I mean, that was incredible. How many lead changes there were. I expect it'll be another close game, but it's another chance for Kenny Atkinson to get in his bag and prove that he deserves to be the coach of the year and that the Cavs should be the favorite to really win the NBA title.
Oh, yeah, totally. And another chance for Donovan to look a little more like himself in this game, in this matchup. Okay, call your shot. Blank will be the Browns starting quarterback in week 1 next season.
Can we do like a bullpen get by committee type of thing? We do a quarterback by committee because you start looking at the names that are out there. It's like, okay, all of these are like part of a decent, battery of quarterbacks, but none of them are someone I want being my quarterback week 1 all the way through. Kirk Cousins, older fella, somebody who's a retread who everybody's talking about, hey, things may not have worked out right in Atlanta. Maybe he comes up here. He could be a nice stopgap for us. I think that gets a little bit more momentum right now for our offensive coordinator. The Browns are interviewing Clint Kubiak, who was up there in Minnesota, famously with Kevin Stefanski, also with Kirk Cousins. So I think you're going to see a lot of momentum along the Kirk Cousins front here in this offseason. But does that excite me that much? I don't know. To be honest with you, that's really just a stopgap measure for what I think is going to end up being a pretty wasted season next season if we don't have any big plans to bring in anybody big. And with the Deshaun Watson situation, I don't know that you can, Ryan.
Yeah, it doesn't seem at this point, it seems like we're trending more towards getting an Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter than one of the rookies than Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, and I'm fine with that. And this might be me hoping, but I'm going to say the starting quarterback for the Browns next season will be Sam Darnold. Now, this is very hingent on Sam Darnold's performance as we're taping this Monday against the LA Rams. If he, back-to-back 2 games in the biggest spotlight of his career, crumbles, then I think some of the questions remain in Vikings if he's worth sticking around or if you implement J.J. McCarthy to see your real future there. Now, they could just franchise tag him, of course, and I expect that to happen, but in the off chance that they don't do that, and with this insurance policy that the Browns are able to cash in, if they can afford to sign Sam Darnold to a 1-2-year deal, $20 million-ish around there, I think that's the best case scenario for the Browns, and I would love to see that happen.
Okay, for this divisional round, let's look at these matchups. Texans at Chiefs, Ravens at Bills, Commanders at Lions, Rams, Vikings at Eagles. How about the divisional round game that I'm most excited for is?
It's going to be the Ravens-Bills game for me. I think the Ravens really looked good. I think they're going to be I think they're coming out of the AFC right now. Obviously, you got to go through Buffalo, though, and Buffalo's a tough place to play. We saw them win this weekend. and it's always a difficult place for road teams, certainly in the playoffs. But Lamar Jackson looked good. They were running the ball very, very well. It seemed like they were kicking, and Pittsburgh just got outclassed in that game. So I'm really watching for that Ravens game to see what they can do against the Bills.
Yeah, it's got to be the Bills-Ravens. That's clearly the best game on the slate. Headed into the divisional round, you have the two MVP frontrunners in Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. And interesting enough, you go back to the regular season, the Ravens absolutely whooped the Bills. Derrick Henry had an absolute meal, and I was worried for the Bills. This is a matchup that they didn't want to see. Obviously, you're going to have to go through tough teams, but I think they match up way better with the Chiefs. So if they can escape this with a win somehow, I think they do actually go to the Super Bowl, but I do expect the Ravens to win this game. Lamar Jackson is playing with his hair on fire. Josh Allen is great, but at the end of the day, the Ravens do have more pieces. James Cook is a great running back, not nearly as good as Derrick Henry is, and I expect the Ravens to go ahead and win this game. And listen, Lamar's legacy, can he get to the Super Bowl? That's a big part of the narrative of these playoffs, because if he can't and he goes out in here and loses, I mean, potentially 3 MVPs is great, but he's getting, not that he's going to retire anytime soon. He's still got a lot of tread on him, but this is another opportunity to show that, listen, he can go win in the playoffs. Huge game for him, and this is going to be exciting.
Mike Vrabel leaving the Browns and going to the Patriots is...
This was the end game, right?
Yeah.
That's what everybody figured. We talked about Mike Vrabel when he came in with the Browns as a consultant at the beginning of the season and taking us all the way back. We were talking about him maybe going down I-71 and going to Columbus and taking over for the Buckeyes should Ryan Day not be successful. We talked about him taking over here in Cleveland. They rumored him for just about every open job along the way. Eventually, when the Patriots made the decision last week to get rid of Jared Mayo, that was the move, and that's what they pulled the trigger on. It's no surprise to me. It's more of a surprise that people weren't talking about this consistently for the last year, because I really think there were a lot of people who didn't expect the Patriots to make the move with Gerard Mayo, and once they did that, then I think this was the natural.
Yeah, it was written in the stars. I mean, we all saw this coming as soon as we got the official news that Gerard Mayo was going to be out in New England. And great for Mike Vrabel. I mean, you get Drake May in there. You have some talented pieces, and he can hopefully turn around that defense. You get the right coordinators in there. They can really do something. Still obviously need a receiver, but I think it's a fantastic hire. Mike Vrabel, we got lucky he was here in Cleveland. Obviously didn't turn out well, but for him to be out of football year, I thought that was shocking to a lot of people. So no surprise here he got back in the game. And New England, I feel like they got a really good guy. You tried with a former Patriot in Gerard Mayo. Well, you tried with a better former Patriot, Mike Vrabel. Just got inducted, I believe, last year to the Patriots Hall of Fame. So, like I said, I mean, it was written in the stars, and good for New England.
Will any Browns follow him?
I don't know. That'll be interesting to see. I don't see him as a guy, necessarily to go plucking from a 3-13 team. He's always looking for talent, though. So obviously, we heard the stories about him with the offensive line and how he was really the de facto coach of the offensive line. So he gets to know these guys quite a bit. So he'll know their weaknesses, their strengths, and he'll probably pluck a few guys. But I don't see a big wholesale move from a 3-13 team from Cleveland there to New England.
Thanks again to our friends at Northeast Factory Direct. We'll be back with more Big Play Cleveland right after this. Welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland Show. Would You Rather is brought to you by the Greater Cleveland Sports Awards. Want to be the luckiest sports fan in Cleveland? I've got the golden ticket. You got to get the golden ticket. Get your 2025 Cleveland Sports Golden Ticket. One lucky fan will win a pair of season tickets to the Browns, Cavs, and Guardians for the 2025-2026 seasons. So that's 130 games, for those of you who aren't mathematicians, of touchdowns, slam dunks, and home runs. Tickets are just $100, and every ticket is an entry to win. All proceeds benefiting the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission. Get your golden ticket today at clevelandsports.org/golden ticket. Okay, guys, the golden ticket gets you season tickets to all 3 Cleveland sports teams. But if you had to choose, would you rather have free season tickets to the Browns, Cavs, or Guardians?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, definitely not the Browns. I'll go the Guardians. I mean, at this point, you're talking about how many ever home games that is for the Guardians. They're a great team right now, and now that we're sitting here in this awful, horrible weather, I can't wait for the summer. Spring training is going to be coming up anytime soon now, and I would definitely pick the Guardians in this one. Sit in those new, nice seats there. I understand you departed from some fan favorites in Jimenez and Josh Naylor, but I still expect them to be competitive, and after going through this Browns season, I'm tired of sitting and watching horrible products on the field, and I know the Guardians will most likely give me the opposite of that.
I'm going Cavs. I think the NBA experience itself is always top notch. The entertainment value you get there. You've also got kind of that more upscale feel when you go to basketball games versus baseball, and certainly versus the Browns. And that's fun when you're in those winter months and it's cold outside. And I'll tell you, just to add to that, if I were to get like courtside seats, like those Rafa seats, I'll tell you, he's always giving those out. Rafa, I'm right here. I would love to get courtside because that's the ultimate. You talk upscale, sitting courtside at a Cavs game, that's something I want to do. And if that golden ticket's going to get me there, give me the Cavs.
Okay, would you rather host a divisional opponent or someone else in the London game this year? Talking Browns.
I would just rather not go to London, but unfortunately that's not an option. And you said, would I rather host a divisional or someone else? I guess just not the Jaguars, right? Because they're basically a home game for them. And the travel, listen, nobody likes to do these games. It's part of the NFL trying to take over the world, and I get it. It would be cool, I guess, if you played the Steelers, Bengals, or Ravens in London, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter to me. I'll pick a divisional game just because if it ends up being, but correct me if I'm wrong, this is a home game for the Browns.
That's correct.
So then maybe, you know what, I'll flip it, and I'll take a non-divisional opponent because I want to keep my home games and my division opponents.
Sure.
I want that advantage there in the dog pound.
Yeah.
And one of the nice things, the Browns are always good about taking care of their season ticket holders. Yeah. They're giving season ticket holders $150 vouchers so that they can get over and watch that game. How about that? How about that? Way to go. Thank you, Cleveland Browns. So that's awful nice of the organization to get us over there. But I really don't care who we play over there. I guess I'd rather it not be a divisional foe, just for the fact that you like to keep the consistency of home and home here, at least in the division. If you go outside of the division, then go nuts. If we want to play at Wembley, if we're going to play over there in London, that's all great and fine with me. But let's keep those division games to the normal home and home schedule.
There are 5 current head coaching openings in the NFL. If you were a top coaching candidate, would you rather take the Bears, Jets, Jags, Raiders, or Saints job?
Certainly not the Jets. I want to stay as far away from Woody Johnson and that organization as physically possible. The Saints isn't really attractive either. I mean, you're looking at now Spencer Rattler as Derek Carr the answer. You don't have a clear answer at quarterback there. The Jaguars, you'd say, yeah, you have Trevor Lawrence, but you don't have much outside of that. I would say the Bears. I mean, you have potentially a franchise quarterback in Caleb Williams. I understand he didn't play particularly well this season, but the talent is still undeniably there. You have a bunch of young pieces on defense. You still have Keenan Allen. You still have DJ Moore. I think that's probably the most attractive head job. I mean, it's a legacy franchise. I feel like a lot of coaches would love to go play there, and the greatest part is you still have pieces to build there with. I understand it wasn't the season that Bears fans wanted, but you saw progress there with Caleb Williams. There's a lot of, as I said, pieces to work with there. And if you manage to get a head coach that has been around the league a couple times, knows what he's doing, I think you can make a quick turnaround there.
Yeah, and I had kind of the same analysis for this, but I'm going to take a different path. I think I want to be the next head coach of the Raiders. And the first thing I want to do, obviously you don't have a quarterback. You need to trade with the Cleveland Browns. So I would trade up. I'd give them my entire draft, maybe even next year's draft, because I want to go and get myself a quarterback. Give that to the Cleveland Browns. Don't worry about them. You know, there's no way that's going to come back to bite me. So as the Raiders' next head coach, and with Cam Ward or Shadir Sanders as my quarterback, I'm sure that we can probably be middling in the league for a little while. But I'm really rolling the dice there and maybe helping out my friends over there in Cleveland a little bit.
All right, that's a wrap for our Would You Rather. A big shout out again to the Greater Cleveland Sports Awards. We're going to be there. I'll be helping host out again this year. It's a really fun event and just great to celebrate Cleveland sports, but also to celebrate all that the Sports Commission, the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission, does for the city of Cleveland and the economic impact that they've had in this city for so many years. Doesn't go without noticing. We want to give them a spotlight and really support them this year, so get those tickets. Okay, guys, how many minutes do we have left of the show here, Pat? Because we got a few minutes to chat here. I've got a little thing that I wanted to pull up. Obviously, Chris McNeil, if you didn't know, Reflog on Twitter, is a meme master. I'm one of his biggest fans. So yes, you are my coworker, but I am also just like so tickled by so many of Chris's memes, and they go viral.
Thank you, Gab.
They go viral for good reason, and I know you guys goof me because it's not like this is new news or anything, but I'm taking upon myself now to start looking at Chris's tweets and pick my favorites of the week. And here's one of the latest and greatest. And you said this one. So this one had thousands of
Yeah,
likes
it's
and
almost at 1 million right now, and it's actually become a little bit
impressions.
controversial
Yeah,
here.
tell us about this meme.
Because you got two sides of it. Obviously, what I'm trying to say here is as we're making this run through the playoffs as the Ohio State Buckeyes, you got Michigan fans continuing to chirp at us. Yeah, but we beat you. Yeah, but we beat you. Hey, if you win the national championship, de facto, by the transitive property of sports, we're also the champions this year. That's all well and good. That's fine. That actually reinforces exactly what the meme is trying to say here. But there's a lot of people, number one, saying that I've already assumed that we're winning the national championship. If you notice in that last one,
clearly depicted.
it's depicted, but there is not a trophy there. So no, I am not calling our shot, number one, on this. And then number two, they're starting to quote Woody Hayes and saying, and Woody famously said that if you don't beat Michigan, then you can't hope for a national championship. Now, Woody Hayes has been gone for a long time. Woody Hayes is somebody who's very close to my heart and to a lot of Buckeyes fans. They're from Newcomers Town, obviously just a fabulous career and really solidified Ohio State and Buckeyes football. But he had no concept of a college football playoff at all in his day. So he had no idea that this would come and create a way to figure out who a national champion would be, and that would be completely not dependent upon what happened in that Michigan game. So to those people, to those naysayers who say, oh, this completely undermines the game, that's fine. That's the way college football is going anymore. I still personally feel very strongly about the game. I always want to beat Michigan, but you know what? That natty's going to taste pretty damn good.
All right. You'll be updating that meme. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland Show. We were just admiring some of Chris's meme work and the beautiful artwork that went into it. And this was my segue to tell you about the fact that there's a big Picasso exhibit over at the Cleveland Art Museum right now. It's there until March. And finally, you guys, I made my way over with a friend of mine. We must have spent 4 hours there just like taking it so serious. You know, my friend Lily is a big artist. And just like everyone else, we were in awe and we were paying reverence to this brilliant artist who has been talked about for so long, who, by the way, didn't die all that too long ago, like in the 70s or something, which is a crazy fun fact in and of itself. But one of the things that I thought was sort of funny, by the time we got done with this exhibit, guys, her and I had gotten dinner and just the wheels started to fall off. We started to slowly unravel about how lackluster many of the pieces that we observed were. Now, this is not me hating on Picasso, guys, but it
certainly
actually
comes off that way.
Yeah, geez.
Listen, I just have a question. Okay, Pat, show the artwork. So we just looked at McNeil's meme work.
Rooster?
And then
You're comparing me to Picasso
we
right
see
now.
this
Okay.
beautiful work that, you know, it's on display. You can watch him paint this in real time. He's got so much time to do it, and it's like a, you know, painting on a timer type deal. And I don't know, we're doing a little back and forth comparison here. I think, Chris, I just wanted to pay you a high compliment.
Oh, I thank you.
I
Thank
think
you.
that you're among one of the greatest in terms of doodling. Yours are digital doodles that we thank you for.
Yeah, Picasso
and,
didn't have Canva. I don't
yeah.
believe.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Chris-
Although Michigan fans would probably figure out a way to be upset at that Picasso, I'm sure.
You are the Ohio State Picasso meme maker, or the Picasso of memes. So congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
And thanks everybody for watching the Big Play Cleveland Show. Go check out the Art Museum. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland Show. We've got some breaking news as we continue wrapping up our show. Chris, you want to hit us with it?
Yeah, it looks like the Cowboys have fired Mike McCarthy, head coach there. It sounds like the contract negotiations between him and Jerry Jones kind of broke down, and now he's a free agent. He's out there on the market. It'll be interesting. Earlier, Ryan, we were talking about some of the coaching vacancies. I think teams like the Saints, I think teams like the Bears may be looking to bring in a Mike McCarthy now that he's free and out of Dallas.
Yeah, you know, I think it was some of the most silly rhetoric going around Mike McCarthy that Dallas should retain him. I mean, this whole season was an audition for Mike McCarthy to prove he can get past the divisional round. You saw what happened last year. He lost to basically a rookie quarterback in Jordan Love at home, and now he failed to make the playoffs. But because he won 5 of like 7 last meaningless games, people are talking about he deserves that job again. No, he's had his time there. He'll move on. I assume, like you said, the Saints. That would be my prediction for Mike McCarthy. And you talk about in terms, is Dallas an attractive destination? Well, you have Dak Prescott coming off that pretty brutal hamstring injury. You do have CeeDee Lamb, to be determined if Michael Parsons is going to go elsewhere or he's going to sign a deal. So it's attractive in a little bit. It's a storied franchise again, but I personally would want to be in Dallas. I understand it's an NFL head coaching job. Of course, it's attractive in that sense, and they'll find somebody for it, but I wonder who that'll be. I would say Mike McCarthy to the Saints.
How long until the Bill Belichick rumors start up now? You know that Jerry Jones likes to take big swings, and there's nothing bigger than Bill Belichick. Still out there, you know, obviously he's coaching in college now famously, but that doesn't mean that he can't get out of contracts, especially when you got Jerry Jones as the one with the purse strings.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when you have Bill Belichick coaching a team. You almost need to give him a few years to get his system in place. Now, does he even have a few years left of coaching in him? That's to be determined. Is he going to leave UNC after this season if he really wants to get back to the NFL? I don't think that'll be the case. To me, it seems like the bridge in the NFL was burned with Bill Belichick. They didn't want him, and I don't take him as a guy who would want to come back after they pretty much just threw him to the side and said, dude, you're done.
Jerry Jones once brought in Bill Parcells, famously, and Bill Parcells, of course, Bill Belichick being a protege of his. So it'd be interesting. I'm sure that talk will at least be out there at some point. We're way too early in this. It just happened. But once again, Mike McCarthy out as that head coach at Dallas. So the wheel just keeps on turning for the NFL.
That's a wrap for our Big Play Cleveland show. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to get those tickets to the Greater Cleveland Sports Awards, and we'll catch you next week on